A long time ago, the internet used to feel like a Wild West. A place where you could discover anything and anybody. Back when the internet was a new technology, there was a ton of excitement towards it. It felt like entering a whole new world. People were so excited to explore and carve out their place in a whole new digital reality. As a result, websites were made. During the old internet, long before it became corporatized and monopolized, websites were mainly a place for hobbyists to design and create something dedicated to themselves or something they were passionate about. When you visit these sites today, they stand in such a stark contrast to what the internet has become. They felt optimistic, full of heart, and most importantly, they felt human. These websites weren't made for monetization. Many of them revolved around unique, niche topics from people who cared about them. It felt as if you could discover and learn about people and subjects from such different walks of life. But sometimes, that was not for the best. With the internet feeling so much freer and open, and with the ability to discover people from so many different places, sometimes that meant that deplorable things slipped through the cracks. You could be exploring a website all about the Philips CDI and then suddenly find yourself here. cutoffmyfeet.com, a name that is sure to get any random visitor terrified yet intrigued. This website first appeared during the year 2000. Prepare yourself for an adventure like you have never before experienced. In an unprecedented event, live via webcam access, you can watch me amputate my legs with a homemade guillotine on September 19th. Yes, you read that correctly. Now you may be wondering what kind of demented website you have found. People read the words amputate and guillotine and automatically freak. What I am doing may be a little untraditional, but that doesn't mean that this is some kind of freak show. I just want to run again. This incredibly alarming homepage alludes to a sort of tragedy behind this all, especially with the I just want to run again line. Perhaps the section about Freck and the accident can fill in the blanks. The About Freck section is pretty small, but states that Freck, whose real name is Paul, was 33 at this time. It says that his hobbies once included playing basketball, water sports, fishing, kneeboarding, and skiing. It appeared to have included a few videos of Paul talking about college and the ROTC, but I couldn't view them. In the accident section, it finally described his traumatic incident, an accident while he and his friends were out boating. This accident partially severed the T12 in Paul's spinal cord, resulting in partial paralysis from the waist down, including complete paralysis of his feet. He cannot feel or move anything below his ankles. Paul spent 3 months in and out of hospitals, including several back surgeries and a kidney being removed. This section states that Paul's lifestyle changed dramatically after the incident, but he has regained limited walking ability with the help of his leg braces. This took what off the surface was a pretty disturbing website into something really heartbreaking. In the ideas section, it states that Paul desperately wants to live a normal life again. When the accident first happened, the technology was not available for that to happen. While the technology is now available for Paul to lead a better life, the financial burden would be much more than he can afford. Since Paul is on Medicare/Medicaid, his insurance will not cover the amputation and new prosthetics because it is not deemed a necessary procedure. Paul also receives medical disability, and his Medicare plan does not even cover the cost of his catheter bag. Paul doesn't want to fight a no-win battle with the insurance and medical communities in the United States. Paul is using this event as a chance to speak out against the lack of care in the medical field and the insurance industry. He strongly believes that this could make great strides in the much-needed insurance and medical reform in the United States. This amputation is simply Paul's way of saying that even though corporate America has refused him, he will get his new prosthetics and improve his quality of life. This website leaves you with a lot to think about and a lot of questions. It clearly made a huge impact on those who suddenly stumbled upon it, and before long, it became a major news story. I found multiple articles from a bunch of different outlets. This ABC article from 2001 says that the site was attracting over 10,000 visitors a day. Despite that, only 10 people have donated $20 for the operation. However, Morgan believes this would change with the construction of his guillotine. This article shows us that he did not remove his limbs in 2000, but a new date was given, Halloween of 2001. A different article from November of 2001 stated that Freck would cut off his feet live on the internet on January 5th, 2001. The article states that if you donate $20, you can watch Freck build his guillotine. Then, on the big day itself, there will be an hour-long professionally produced web extravaganza, complete with prepackaged interviews, online polling, and of course, the big event. Freck will sever his feet at the ankle. He has no feeling from the ankles down, bleed for a while, and cauterize the wounds. The article itself even brings up the fact that the big day had been delayed twice by this point. In a late archive of the website from 2003, we can see that things have changed a little. On the home screen, we can now see Freck and his guillotine. The bottom of this home screen then addresses the fact that his feet still weren't amputated yet. He says that in good news, he secured a production crew, EMT services, lighting, camera crews, director, live band, the video and DVD production, lighting, location, production manager, and the guillotine. In bad news, he says that corporate lawyers made him lose a lot of his crew, the satellite truck, and the investors who were going to cover the production costs of the event. As a result, he says that the amputation is postponed until the money has been secured. Many of you may wonder why I'm not using the sign-up money to pay for the costs. The money paid for memberships is in escrow until after I perform the amputation, so I am hoping to find an interested investor to help me get this amputation underway. In the frequently asked questions section, there were a number of interesting questions asked. One of these was, what are you going to do with your feet after you cut them off? Would you consider an auction? I'm not sure if that's legal. Ultimately, it seems that Freck was planning to freeze his legs with the hope that maybe someday he'd be able to use them again. The next question asked what he was planning to do for pain management during the operation. He says he hopes that a doctor on site can administer some local anesthetic in each leg to cover the initial pain. Then, he says, later in the hospital, further pain treatment will be administered if needed. Towards the bottom, he's asked how many people he thinks will watch the live stream. He hopes it would be 200,000. As time went by, this website began fading. A place that once hosted thousands of visitors a day started becoming forgotten. By the mid-2000s, the website was no more. I found forums asking if anyone remembered cutoffmyfeet.com. Most of these threads ended up devolving into amputation jokes, but no one seemed to know what came of this site. In fact, there doesn't seem to be anything I could find about Paul online after this website disappeared. Which leaves the question, what happened to him? Did he ever really cut off his feet on livestream with somebody watching it in person? It seems pretty clear that he did not. He very publicly mentioned the various setbacks this entire operation was giving him. That is, if you believed he ever even would have at all. I can only assume that he just decided to shut down the website one day after realizing that it wasn't going to help with his medical costs. The thought that somebody felt he had no other choice but to amputate his own legs in front of an audience is profoundly sad and horrifying at the same time. The website reminded me of a primitive, unsettling GoFundMe page from long before GoFundMe ever existed. For a brief time, he truly got the attention he hoped for, but it looks like he never got the financial support. If he did get the support he had hoped for, who knows where this could have gone, and if he would have really done it. Instead, this site will forever remain as one of the most infamous tales the old internet has to offer. At this time, the web was often described as feeling like an escape of sorts. It was a whole new world that felt vast, yet oddly intimate. Sometimes the most alluring part of exploring the old internet was seeing how unknown some of the websites appeared to be. Exploring these websites full of passion, personality, and occasionally horror led to the internet feeling so vast and full of possibilities. That leads us directly to the next website of the night. First arriving in 1997 is superbad.com. When visiting the website, the first thing you are greeted with is this unintelligible image. When clicking it, we then see what looks like retro macOS, and I'm sure some of these buttons will be clickable. Soon, the unnerving nature of this website begins to reveal itself. This website appears absolutely endless. every single page seems to lead to hundreds of other pages, which themselves leads to hundreds of more. It is an absolutely overwhelming labyrinth. To this day, nobody really knows what it means. What some people have realized is that some of these pages seem to repeatedly mention certain people or characters. Mr. Hubris, Aunt Viv, Uncle Jay, and a surprising amount of references to bees. The art style within all of these different web pages is extremely varied and distinct. This website first appeared in 1997, and some of these visuals were shockingly detailed and advanced for the time. I'm sure that this combination of aesthetics and the cryptic nature of its design must have unsettled people. Nowadays, you might recognize a website like this as an ARG. Superbad.com looks like it must be some sort of cryptic puzzle to solve. Many ARGs today feature these sort of complex, unsettling, abstract puzzles. It's also an early example of web art, that is, artistic work specifically produced using the tools of web design. Back in 1997, something like this would have been completely unheard of. It likely left many visitors confused, fascinated, and unsettled. A website like this, as off-putting and creepy as it may have seemed off the surface, was revolutionary in a way, and eventually it began getting recognized for its feats. In 1999, it received a Webby Award in the Weird category. In 2000, it was actually displayed at the Whitney Museum Biennial along with 9 other websites. This website was created by a man named Ben Benjamin, and when asked about his website's inclusion in the Biennial and whether it validates net art, he said, "I say that it's already valid. What I think it does, it makes it look more valid to the art crowd. So all of a sudden, because it's in a museum, it's not crap anymore?" During the same interview, it further peers behind the creator of Superbad.com. Ben states that he never really thought of his website as art until the art people started finding it. Ben says that he always wanted to be an artist, but didn't think it was practical. It stated that he worked as a web designer at the time this article was written. The article says that Superbad first began as an experimental staging ground, a testing ground of sorts, but eventually it evolved into a maze, which the article says changes almost daily. It's also said that despite the website attracting 2,500 to 3,000 visitors a day in 4 years, it hasn't made a cent. I would love it if somebody wanted to pay me to do something like Superbad, but I've never thought of it as an option. I can't commodify Superbad, it'll never be bought or sold. All these years later, his sentiment seems to have remained true, as the website is still up for you to explore and attempt to uncover. Superbad.com was once an innovator, but even today it remains a fascinatingly mysterious art project that feels just as alluring as it did all those years ago. From the earliest days of the internet, people have used it as a place to document your thoughts. As a result, many old websites were personal blogs. There were also many websites that hosted blogs. When creating one, it was the poster's choice on whether to make them either as revealing or as secretive as they wanted it to be. On the surface, this website seems pretty standard. Fifth Nail was a blog hosted by Blogspot. At this time, it wasn't uncommon to stumble on blogs like these. From behind a screen, you could get a sense of the life and psychology behind someone so far from your own. These early posts consistently mention his cat and also consistently mention a game this guy loved playing called Delta Force. However, just a day later, on January 5th, there was a giant alarming blog entry posted. It begins by stating that he has dedicated a lot of research towards studying sex offenders. In his words, he has researched why they do what they do, but more importantly, what it is that they do. He likens treating these people to treating drug addicts. He then says, "We instead berate the offender with how wrong and even monstrous their thinking is without giving them credit for having an honest, rational thought. Instead of denying the truth and telling the offender they should do the same, if we want to help the victims, we have to help the offenders and recognize that they are victims too. They are victims of their own distorted views. In order to help the offenders, we have to recognize that the thinking that keeps them from seeing the hurt they have caused is the same as the thinking that keeps us from seeing the rational behind their often denied belief that they really did not hurt anyone. Then he feels he needs to state a few things before continuing, namely that he is not actually a child predator, before stating that he was 16 when he committed his crime. He says that because of his family circumstances, he thought that what he did was normal and that everybody did it. Then he says that he spent 2 years in an experimental treatment program that has since been dismantled because of extreme failures. Failures that include people reoffending while still in the program, as well as more than one therapist offending while working with the patients. Due to numerous civil rights violations, this program, which was supposedly at Western State Hospital, was shut down. Finally, the blogger gets into what he sees as the moral of the story. The offenders in the program became disillusioned as they were instructed to use modified versions of the truth that would stand public scrutiny. While emphasizing truth and honesty, the therapists began instructing the senior members in the program to refrain from certain terminology and treatment techniques that might be considered offensive. How sadly often that story is repeated in this world. I think it should be an underlying theme for the Fifth Nail website, how great ideas are invariably trampled by the masses. Unfortunately for us, the posts get way worse from here. In his next post, he states that he went to adult jail when he was 17 and did not get out until he was 38, just a few years ago. In another post a few days later, he states that he has a camera mounted in his home to watch his cats and for security. Ever since my skeletons were front page news 3 years ago, I felt not just a little insecure. I have it rigged so when it detects a significant amount of motion, like someone walking into my living room, it will page my cell phone and take pictures. I can also access my webcam anytime I want from my cell phone to get a live, full-color picture of inside my apartment. This is also part of my paranoia about getting charged for some crime I know nothing about. I figure the more I document my day-to-day routine, the less chance someone has of saying I was someplace I wasn't. But it still doesn't give me any real sense of security because a crafty prosecutor can tear apart the best alibi. Those who may have stumbled upon this blog in the early 2000s must have been horrified. It starts by vaguely mentioning his skeletons that were front page news 3 years ago and seems extremely paranoid about getting charged for some crime he knows nothing about. Most of the following blog posts were once again about the dehumanization that sex offenders face and his frustration with how dishonestly criminals are treated in America. There was also a post about a neighbor of his who invited him for a movie and seemed to have feelings for him. On January 11th, the blogger heard a knock on his door. A man's voice answered, "Police," or something similar. I opened the door thinking it was an officer doing their annual harassment check. Instead, I found 3 officers in the hall, 2 men, 1 woman. One of the men addressed me and accusationally told me that I had better stop harassing women downtown because they know about me and I was being watched. He denies these claims the officers made before saying this at the end of the paragraph. I strongly believe that if the women had accused me of anything more serious than asking them out, I would have been arrested without question. This blog has a lot of posts, and the rest of them seem to follow the themes of what we have seen. Lengthy paragraphs about the psychology of sex offenders and the unfair way in which they are treated, paranoia about the police showing up to his door, and lengthy accounts about prison life. Of course, these posts would also include huge accounts of the poster defensively stating that he was just a confused kid who got locked up for much longer than he should have due to the hysteria, even though all his psych reports said he was low risk. As time went on, these posts began getting more and more unhinged. By the beginning of 2005, the posts looked like this. Are the police spying on me? My laptop has been acting strange lately. Seems I keep getting reinfected with spyware type viruses. I finally found the hole and plugged it, but now today I get a rejection notice in my email box for an email I never sent. The rejecting server is located in the same city I was being investigated out of this summer. In April of 2005, the most horrifying post yet would be posted. He says that he's been accused of abusing a little boy. Once again though, he says he couldn't possibly do it because after all, he is not a child predator. Well, I'm not a psychopath either. I feel the full force and pain of everyone I've ever hurt, but that doesn't stop me from doing what I need to do. Ultimately, my feelings don't matter. I learned that in prison. I have to carry out my orders or a lot worse than just me dying could happen. The very next post was a bit over a week later on April 25th, and it was just as horrifying. Yes, I am still alive. I honestly wish not. I just don't know how to kill myself, so it makes sense. Nothing makes sense to me right now. Last night I realized I was scared and alone. Being scared doesn't bother me as much as being alone, but it is a fate that I probably choose sometime before I was ever born, because I've been making the decision to fight my battles alone since I was a small child. The current battle is of epic proportions. I do not make this claim idly either. It is a battle between me and my demons. Only 2 people in the world have a clue as to the power and nature of my demons, besides me, and they will probably never read this. But just the same, these demons are stronger than even I gave them credit for, and now they are taking my best blows and not even staggering. I'm afraid. Very afraid. If they win, that a lot of people will be badly hurt. And they've had their way before, so I know what they can do. I've been praying a lot and asking God for help. I've asked him to step in and intercede directly because I see no other way at this point that I can win. If you are reading this and you believe in God, please pray for God to help me defeat my demons. God has shown me the right choice, but my demons have tied to a spit and the fire has already been lit. I don't know if the right choice is even an option anymore. On May 11th, 2005, he would return, stating that the demons have taken over and that he was very afraid. I was in prison for over 18 years since the age of 17. As an adult, all I knew was the oppression of incarceration. All those years I dreamed of getting out and getting even. Instead I got out, and I got even, but did not get caught. So I got even again and again and did not get caught. So I figured, well, I got even twice, actually more, but that's neither here nor there. Even if I'm the only one who knows. So now what? Well, that was when the Happy Joe dream started. I met a bunch of really great people, the kind of people I didn't even know existed, but here they were, bunches of them. My neighbors, my landlords, my professors, my coworkers, and they were all good people who were willing to give me a chance despite my past. They were willing to accept me and be my friend, something that was new for me, having been betrayed by so many friends and even my own family. So I tried to make it work, but the problem was those demons, the ones who got even for me. They kept reminding me that if my new friends knew about them and what I had done to even, then so much for their friendship. So Happy Joe was just dreaming, or pretending to be happy. Then, on May 13th, he would post for the final time. My mother is crying right now because her son is in trouble again. She tried to raise a good son, and she knows her son has a good heart, so why does he do these things? She's probably more hurt and confused than me. Does it matter? It hurts me to know these things. But does it matter? 100 years from now, all my mother's pain will be forgotten, and other mothers will cry for their sons. A million years from now, there probably won't be any mothers, at least not like we know. I have feelings. In fact, I think I must be more sensitive than most people because I seem to feel more than they do. At least, more than what they are willing to openly express. I feel for the starving children and families in the world. Others say, oh, that's too bad, but I can't do anything, so... I wish I could be more honest about my feelings, but those demons made sure I'd never be able to do that. I might not know if it matters, but just in case, I am working on an encrypted journal that is hundreds of times more frank than this blog could ever be. That's why I keep it encrypted. I figure in 30 years or more we will have the technology to easily crack the encryption, currently very uncrackable, PGP, and then the world will know who I really was and what I really did and what I really thought. Also, maybe then they will understand that despite my actions, I'm not a bad person. I just have a disease contracted from society and it hurts a lot. I hope to complete this journal before I die, soon, or turn myself in. I still might do that, I think it's the right thing, but of course, I'm not sure. Speak of being sure, I wish I could be sure about my thoughts, but right now the only thing I'm sure about is that I'm sure about nothing. It is not a good position to be in considering my circumstances, being a felony fugitive and all. After this, his blog became radio silent. That was until this.
Breaking news out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho tonight. An Amber Alert. An 8-year-old and a 9-year-old missing. Their entire family wiped out.
The author of this blog was a man named Joseph Duncan, and in 2005, he was arrested for the murder of Brenda Groen, her boyfriend Mark McKenzie, and her 13-year-old son, Slade Groen. They were found bound with duct tape and brutally beaten to death in their home, where it was quickly discovered that Brenda's 2 other children, Shasta and Dylan, were missing. This became a weeks-long manhunt. Over 400 acres of land were thoroughly searched, but to no avail. That was until the police got a call from a local Denny's. In July 2005, a waitress noticed a young girl sitting with a middle-aged man. This girl looked as if she hadn't bathed in a while, and the middle-aged man would not take his eyes off of her. She then realized that this girl resembled Shasta, who was all over the news. When the police arrived, Joseph Duncan was arrested. Shasta had been kidnapped and held captive by Duncan for 48 days. Tragically, her brother was already dead, having been killed right in front of her. Duncan was officially sentenced to the death penalty in 2008, and around that time he confessed to the murder of Anthony Martinez. In 1997, while playing in a neighbor's yard, Duncan pulled up to the home and offered Anthony and his brother Marcos $1 to help find his lost cat. He then attempted to kidnap Marcos, who Anthony helped free, before being taken himself. 15 days later, his body was found naked and bound with duct tape. Shasta later told investigators that Duncan had told her about even more crimes, including the murder of Sammy Jo White and her half-sister Carmen Cubias, who were aged 11 and 9 respectively. Duncan himself would claim to have assaulted 13 young boys, with the earliest being when he was just 15 years old. In March of 2021, while awaiting the death penalty, Joseph Duncan was found dead after refusing treatment for brain cancer. The family of those affected by this pathetic man found solace in the fact that he could never harm anyone again, even if it wouldn't bring their family members back, and have made multiple public statements about it. A few months after his death, The Fifth Nail, the complete blogs of Joseph Edward Duncan, was published. These were the complete blogs of Joseph Edward Duncan, including previously lost material and extremely detailed confessions about his crimes. These confessions are so much worse than what we read on his blog, further demonstrating how morally broken and disgusting this man really was. The families this man tore apart are still very much within living memory. Shasta herself is just 28 years old, which is only a few years older than I am, and in 2024 her home burned down, leaving her helpless. She started a GoFundMe, which is still active as of now. Just a few days ago, as of writing this, a new update was shared. Hello everyone, please see the update from Shasta below. Sharing my story in Out of the Woods has been a roller coaster, incredibly hard but also incredibly empowering. Juggling life as a single mom of 5 amazing boys, building my new business, and speaking out for other survivors is a crazy ride, one step at a time. Your support and love mean the absolute world to me and my boys. Seriously, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm still working hard to be independent, but the truth is I still need a little help. My business will grow and the book royalties will come, but both are unpredictable. Right now, your generous donations to this GoFundMe are crucial. They'll cover things like school clothes, food, therapy, and most importantly, a new roof over our heads. We need to move soon, and a bigger place would be amazing for 5 growing boys. I'm dedicated to healing and using my voice to help others. Thank you for believing in me and helping me build a brighter future. I love you all. As the update suggests, Shasta just published a book about her experiences called Out in the Woods. In her own words, "For years it felt like screaming into the void. I yearned to share my story, but no one could truly listen. It was too much, too terrible to hear." I hope that this is the start of a much more peaceful chapter for her and her entire family, as well as the rest of the other families affected by the disgusting actions of Joseph Duncan. Actions that were first revealed deep in the old internet. And though this story is thankfully over, he left behind people who are still creating theirs, people that deserve to have their story told so much more.
Imagine a world where every word ever written, every picture ever painted, and every film ever shot could be viewed instantly in your home.
During the mid-1990s, many people were being introduced to the internet for the very first time. It was a learning experience for everybody. In a sense, any website someone may have visited could have showed them something completely new. Unfortunately, there were some websites out there made to take advantage of this. Of all the different audiences that were being introduced to the internet that could possibly visit your website, perhaps one of the more easily deceived of these were the more religious crowd. During the old internet, a website was made to prey on their superstitions. That website was winkingjesus.com, featuring the miraculous Winking Jesus. The front quote of the website says, "On April 23, 1996, this picture of Jesus Christ miraculously winked at me. This experience has changed my life. Over 100,000 people have come to witness this miracle. Many people have had a lot to say about their experience. If you are fortunate enough to witness this image of Jesus Christ wink, please tell your friends and family about this miracle. Reverend Jonathan C. Chance. One of the notable sections of this website are the testimonies. These are hundreds of different comments from people who have witnessed the winking Jesus. So, what's the deal with it? Well, as you may have guessed, if you stare at this image for long enough, it has the ability to blink. That's because it wasn't an image, it was a GIF. However, there are a few tricks up its sleeve. Firstly, it blinks very quickly. Secondly, once it blinks, it won't blink again. To someone not very familiar with the internet at the time, this might have left them questioning if what they saw really happened. But then if you scroll down, there are hundreds of testimonies. Users could submit a testimony claiming to either have seen Jesus wink or not see him wink. So hundreds claimed that it was a miracle that Jesus winked at them, and hundreds said the opposite. As the website went on, it began selling merch. This included a Winking Jesus shirt, a Winking Jesus hoodie, and a Winking Jesus thong? I really wonder how many people this may have gotten at the time, or if it was mostly understood as being a prank. This website is genuinely hilarious and also absurd in a way, but I could genuinely see it tormenting somebody who was not very familiar with how the internet worked. I've been fascinated by the old internet for a very long time, and these haunting websites that slip through the cracks sometimes leave me thinking the most. Websites like the ones we explored tonight help us see both how much and how little we know of the world around us. They peer into the sides of people that you rarely are exposed to, while also showing us the depravity that could lie anywhere, which is perhaps the scariest part of this all.